Hello and welcome back to Under Center with Jake Russell. I'm your host and voice of Fighting Tiger football, Collin Sheffield. Alongside me once again, after 4 straight wins to start the season, head coach Jake Russell. Coach Russell, I know we don't like to get into it too much, and that's fair, I get it. But the first time since 1992 that the Tigers have started 4-0, as well as their first home game last week to start the season, and it was a great one against Bluefield.
Yeah, awesome day. It was great to be home. We talked about that a lot last week, but the crowd showed out, man. A lot of energy. It's a great thing as a coach when you kind of know going in that energy isn't going to be a big issue early in the game. Your guys are going to feed off the atmosphere at home, the crowd at home, the bands, the cheer, dance teams, just the environment that our university and their athletic department does a great job of creating on our home games. And so guys came out really energized, even the kind of crazy start to the game where we spotted them 7 points. Great response by our guys on both sides of the ball to go and dominate the rest of the half and put us in a really good position. But yeah, 4-0 is a great spot to be. It keeps us on track to all of our goals. I got to give a shout out to the 2017 team. They started out actually 7-0. They had a game canceled, which I think kind of has it skewed in some people's mind. But they were a great team, won a victory bowl, and they actually did end up 7-0 to start the year. But yeah, we've had some great teams in the past. That 92 team, that's my birth year, so that's a special one to me. And obviously an early team with Coach Finley and some of the alumni from that team were actually back this week, reminiscing on that. And so yeah, had some awesome teams, and we hope to be one of those teams that people are talking about, in 20 years like they are that team.
The Tigers started out a little rocky, one that just probably slips out of the hand. It's a fluky start, 7 points right off the bat to Bluefield, but the boys come out and respond beautifully, put together a drive. Me and Khalil were talking, it seemed like one of the more fully complete halves of football first half. It seemed like the Tigers have been going through a lull there in the middle of the first half, and then they would pick it up towards the end of the half. This one kind of seemed like it was kind of complete from start to end for the offense.
Really talked to our offense about not just starting the game well, but then, taking that into the second, third, and fourth drive. As you mentioned, we've definitely hit a lull in that mid-first quarter up until right before the half. We always seem to score on that last drive of the half. Now I've got to remind the guys that we also want to start well. And like you said, just kind of a fluke play. It's kind of a helpless feeling as a quarterback. It's happened to everybody that's ever played the position. And unfortunately it turned into a touchdown for them. But again, just a great response. Our defense only allowed, I think, 3 points in the first half. And again, overall, a really good performance where all phases of the offense were performing well. Running the ball great. The kind of quick and screen and RPO game working, and then also some downfield passing. The execution of the trick play, which just always as a offensive guy and as a coach, that's really what it's about, is to think, we should try the double pass this week. We think it's got a good chance. And then it actually executes, and it's like, man, that's such a good feeling. And I thought that really was a huge momentum booster for our team on Saturday as well.
From how far back Patrick Oden was when they made the pass, I told Khalil I was shocked that the corner had bit so hard up on Oden, and I knew that he had a history of being able to throw it deep, and so as soon as I saw Seiler streaking down the field, I was like, oh, here we go, little trick play to get things going. And, obviously Patrick Oden, 1 for 1, a 65-yard touchdown, can't get much better stats than that, but Jagger Gillis, as we take a look at some of the big ones here, he went 18 for 18, had a 100% completion rating. He threw for 204 yards and 3 touchdowns. Trey Bass getting things going there on the rush. A lot more rushing done, more so in the second half than the first. He had 89 yards and 2 touchdowns. And on the defensive side of the ball, the defense getting it done as always. Keelan Lamar, 5 tackles. He's the one that really got into the backfield a lot. Had 2 big sacks there to really help kickstart this defense a little bit at times where it seemed like Bluefield was on the move. Bluefield actually dominated in time of possession. They had about 15 more minutes than you all, but you outscored them by 32, so it was more so the quick strikes, and the offense was just rolling. You also have C.A. Collins. He rushed for 2 touchdowns. It was good to see him get things going, get back into it after he's been a little injury prone as well.
Yeah, rushing stats in college football are always a little skewed because they factor in bad snaps, they factor in sacks, they factor in even that first play there when the ball slipped out of Jagger's hand. That's technically a negative rush up to the fumble. So we actually averaged over 6 yards a rush, which we were able to do against U-Pike in the first game. So I thought getting back to that was really big. Trey and, obviously CA being back healthy, man, has just made a world of a difference. Hopefully going to get Rob back, our freshman, as well. And we'll really develop a three-headed monster in the backfield. All three of those guys, great players, and some other guys adding in some depth there. But like you mentioned, Keelan Lamar, I thought the defensive line really did a great job pressuring the quarterback. That's one of the better passing offenses in the nation. We talked about last week how they're going to throw the ball a ton. They have a unique identity at Bluefield, and they kind of live and die by it. And even in a game where it was a little bit of a struggle for them, they put up 30 points offensively. So they're going to be very dangerous all year. That was probably a better win than even it felt like at the time. That's a team that you're going to look up at the end of the year that's going to be 6-4, 7-3, and you're going to say, oh, wow, that was actually a really good win. And they may make a run in their conference as well. Coach Les does a great job. But again, I just thought all three phases continue to show improvement. But we're going to have a great test this week. I know we're going to get into that. That's going to be kind of a completely different style than what we've seen so far. So our guys are ready. We're still, as a staff, figuring out ways to motivate our guys and keep them hungry when you're starting to get a lot of pats on the back. And as you mentioned, first time since this and first time since that, first time receiving votes, first time starting 4-0. All these things that are great and that just come along when you're chasing those goals. Can we still, take that kind of poor and hungry mindset that we took all through fall camp, all through last spring, all those motivating factors coming out of last year, can they still be there this year?
I think it's great, too, when you get to watch your all's plan unfold because, we go down there a little bit, talk to some of the coaches, kind of get a feel for what maybe the plan is for the game, for the week. And they talked about, forcing Herstick out to his left. They thought that that's where the weakness was and you could exploit it. And right off the bat, Josiah Harris gets a pick because quarterback is forced out and rolling to his left. It's always so interesting to watch, exactly what you all call play out. And it's even better to watch the defense or the offense execute those plans.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to understand what football coaches do between Saturdays. I think in a lot of people's mind, it's more just, go out and practice a few days a week, do some weights, and then show up on Saturday. But there's, you can actually see on Huddle how much film an individual person is watching through the course of the week. And all of our coaches are watching hours and hours, and players as well, but coaches making game plans for the opponent. Football is such a kind of a unique sport to where it's one game a week, max, right? And so you have 6 days between games to, pick and really find all the details in what your opponent's going to do or that you project they're going to do on Saturday. And then I tell our coaches a lot is understand that the other staffs are doing the exact same thing with us. So how do we combat that and continue to do well knowing the other staffs are doing that? And then how do we formulate a great game plan, not just that makes sense to us, but that we can go and teach our young men and those guys can actually go out and execute. Because one of the big challenges as a coach, and especially football junkies, which we have a staff full of them, is almost over-coaching and overthinking things and saying, how can I make this the perfect play? How can we not allow 1 yard? How can we score a touchdown every play? Well, at the end of the day, that's really not realistic, and that's not the goal. The goal is to, when the game ends, have more, points on your side of the scoreboard than the other team, and that takes a whole week of preparation. Coaches doing a great job, but also young men buying in, and I think that's what you're seeing as the difference this year is our guys doing that.
Well, Coach, we're going to give you a break, and when we come back, we're going to sit down with Devin Mann here on Under Center with Jake Russell.
Jason, let's go see your room.
No, that's not right. How was it? Is it good?
Life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome. Prediabetes does. 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, but with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. And you can change the outcome. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test today. Go to doihaveprediabetes.org.
Welcome back to Under Center with Jake Russell. I'm your host, Collin Sheffield, and sitting beside me now is the Director of Player Personnel and Recruiting, Devin Van.
Yes,
Devin,
sir.
It's so good to have you in. You know, our paths have crossed a few times, but we haven't really had the chance to sit down and talk like we have today. So why don't we kind of introduce yourself to the people here in your first year, just kind of give us a background of where you're from and kind of what's brought you to this point.
So I'm from Maryland, born and raised, and then I went on to the University of Dayton to play football. And then from there, I graduated in the midst of COVID, so I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go next, and then the Buffalo Bills ended up giving me a call, ended up there just for their training camp. And then from there, I went on to Wake Forest University and helped in their football recruiting department, and then back to the Buffalo Bills, and then from Buffalo Bills back to the New York Giants. And then now I'm here with Coach Russell.
Moving around quite a bit there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So how is all that moving? You know, you go from somewhere, you go from North Carolina, right, with Wake Forest,
Yes,
and then you shoot up to New York for several different stints,
Yep.
different parts of New York,
Yeah.
and now you're down in Kentucky. What's that been like?
It's a lot of accents, really. Just dealing with all the accents and dealing with the southern accents from North Carolina and Kentucky. So, but I'm used to it. I like moving around. Being around great football programs just keeps me close to home. So, and I feel close to home here as well.
So let's talk about your role a little bit. Tell me what the role is, and tell me maybe what a day looks like in the life of Devin Van.
A lot of recruiting and a lot of working in tandem with Coach Lewis, helping out with the Director of Football Operations. And so a lot of recruiting. So we had our big recruiting as a big game this weekend against Bluefield. And that was our first home game that we had to expose to the recruits. And I think they enjoyed it. The alumni say it went smooth. And then with Coach Lewis, I help out with anything that he needs. So if he says, hey, Devin, can you call this place or do this? I'm doing that for him as well. So work in tandem with Coach Lewis for sure, and then also help out with recruiting.
So when you say you help out with recruiting, are you making the calls? Or are you sitting down having conversations with those recruits? Or are you just kind of feeding information into the coaches?
I got you. All of the above,
All
really.
of it.
So helping out in all facets that I can, you know, not stepping on any toes or anything, but just seeing where I can fit and help out, whether it's calling or finding recruits. I'm willing to do whatever.
So talk to me about what leads you into Campbellsville, right? So there's a catalyst, there's something that happens. What gets you the call to come down here?
Really, I wanted to get my MBA, and then just going through opportunities to get my MBA. Then I happened to stumble upon Campbellsville University, and then from there, I went on with a phone call with Coach Russell, and from that phone call, I pretty much knew that's where I wanted to be. And I had a couple other options to choose from, but ultimately I knew that I picked the right choice just because I feel at home here. It's a family-like atmosphere here. I love the coaching staff here. I'm learning a lot while I'm here. And the players as well have been great to me, so I'm loving it so far.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what's it been like with the coaching staff? You know, this last year, they all kind of came together, and this year, everybody stayed, a couple new additions, including yourself, and some old people, some old guys brought back into the fold as well, like Coach Gribbins. So what's that been like working with this staff and with, you know, everything that goes on?
Man, honestly, one of a kind. A great staff. I keep telling Coach Bryson that we need our own special on Netflix because we have a bunch of characters on our coaching staff and the team as well. But I'm learning from everyone, from Coach Owens, Coach Beatty, just being in defensive meetings with Coach Atwood and learning from Coach Ford, who's been around a bunch of places. So I'm learning a lot right now, and I love this coaching staff. I feel like they're my extended family being away from home.
We always make jokes. We always say for example, Coach Atwood. Coach Atwood, it's like a switch.
Yep.
You know, you go out there and I can talk to him just as easy as we're talking right now. He's smiling and laughing. And then it's like on game day, I could be down on the field and that switch has just been flipped. And he'll come walking and just be right past me, head straight. And, you know, I'm scared to put my hand out because he will wreck your hand when he comes through. It's so many different personalities. Then you get Coach Ford. We sit on the bench with him and talk. And he's just over there kind of cracking jokes and talking about some of the plan. And then, of course, Coach Beatty's a little intense and energetic. Coach Owens kind of the same way, just always walks out. You know, how you doing, Coach Owens? Oh, I'm blessed. And then he just keeps going on. So this coaching staff, I mean, I can't even imagine how fun it is to work with.
Yeah. And luckily, Coach Atwood's get-back guy. And so I try to dial down his intensity just a little bit, but I let him do what he has to do. He did end up getting a penalty one week, but that won't happen again.
Yeah, I saw you down there trying to wrangle everybody, and of course I saw Dom down there doing.
Yeah, we do
you
that.
guys do everything.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
I don't think there's a thing you all don't do.
Hey, anything to help the team win. That's our mentality.
What's it been like living in the city of Campbellsville, and you know, what's it been like for that?
Coming from the New York City area most recently, so it's a big change, night and day really, but I'm enjoying it. It's a small town feel. Everybody knows each other. One McDonald's in the whole town, a couple stoplights, but I'm enjoying it so far. It's a great change of pace for me, and I think that's what I needed the most.
So far, what's been the favorite restaurant? Coach Owens came in, sat down, talked about brothers a lot. What's been yours?
I haven't gotten off campus much. I'm a big calf guy.
Okay.
And then if I'm not at the calf, I'll try to reach out and go somewhere else. But Brothers Barbecue is definitely my favorite place so far that I've been.
They were talking about how the recruits get the Brothers wings, and everybody. Khalil was excited because he works with that portion, and so he came in and was bragging about how he got these Brothers wings, and I was jealous. I guess, you know, hopefully I'll get an invite to one of these recruiting events.
Hey, you're welcome to come whenever you want.
So when you come down, what was it like working, you know, what did you learn at places like New York with the Bills, with the Giants, and what have you brought down here with you?
Pretty much just being in the staff rooms in the front office with each team that I've been with is definitely, just lack of better terms, just like heartwarming, just like taking like everything that they've taught me and then trying to translate that to the college level, at the NAIA level. And so I'm pretty much just bringing my expertise in recruiting and that I've picked up along the way, and my expertise in scouting and looking at different player attributes that helps them excel on the field, and just trying to bring that and translate that to the NAIA level. And so right now we're working on just building the team, building a roster right now for next year.
Obviously, that's been pretty different switch. You know, you go from professional to the amateur level. What's what's the hardest part been so far of that switch?
Really, I don't think it's like a hard switch, really. It's really seamless. When you know football, when you've seen football at the highest level, you know what to expect. And then, of course, you're at this level where players have aspirations to be at the highest level. And so I try to coach up dudes because I've seen it before, so I try to coach them up to get them to their highest potential.
Well, Devin, I appreciate you stopping by and coming in and sitting down to talk with us.
Man, thank you for having me.
When we come back, we'll sit down with Coach Russell to talk about the upcoming matchup with the Roosevelt Lakers here on Under Center with Jake Russell.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never gonna let you go. Never gonna let
When I never graduated from high school, I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed to come back to school. I felt accomplished, made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Welcome back to Under Center with Jake Russell. I'm your host, Collin Sheffield. Alongside me for the final segment here, head coach Jake Russell. Coach Russell, the Tigers have to take on the Roosevelt Lakers. This is a former NAIA team that has just transitioned to D2 this year, and they have 2 games under their belt. They're out of Chicago. They started out 0-2, but they've played some pretty good teams to start, and they've played them in pretty close games. They played the number 3 team in D2 in Whitewater and only lost by 10. They played Valparaiso and put up a pretty good fight there. You said they went to double overtime. So what is it that we can expect out of this team to start?
Yeah, a little bit of a mystery for everybody. Not a common opponent. I would assume the first matchup ever of Roosevelt and Campbellsville. As we lost a home game off our schedule kind of late, we were looking to add a 5th home game, obviously trying to take advantage of our home games and our atmosphere and what it provides for our program and university and community. And Roosevelt was looking for a game, and it's just a great situation where they're going to come here this year. They're in the transition of going full D2, which they now are, and so this will be a great opportunity. There's always this kind of, I would say rivalry, but this just pride in saying, NAI is great football and D2, obviously everybody knows is great football. And so it's a big opportunity for our program. It's going to be a big challenge, like you said. While they're 0-2, they've played 2 really good teams, a highly ranked Division III opponent, an FCS opponent in Valparaiso, and took both of them to the wire, double overtime against Valpo last week. They're going to be a very physical team. They're going to run the ball really well. They have an identity where they want to be very physical. So it's going to be a great challenge for our guys. And I love it because we're getting a great opponent to come into our place. And this would be like if we have this great year and host the first playoff game in Campbellsville history, you're going to have a great opponent come into your home stadium and expect to win. I also love it because it's a complete contrast of styles from what we faced game 1 against U-Pike, this past game against Bluefield, where it's heavy passing, it's downfield, it's spread it out, and now you're going to get probably the real true first game where it's kind of smash mouth football. They're going to try to run it really well on offense. They're going to try to be very physical, load the box a little bit on defense. And again, when you make the playoffs, when you have these goals of winning conference, going to the playoffs, you never know who you're going to draw, and you got to be able and willing to go up against all different types of opponents and play well.
We can go at it in levels. The Tigers, their secondary is so good. We've been playing super well, a lot of interceptions. I'm not exactly sure where we rank in the NAI in interceptions, but we're getting 1 to 2 a game at this point. Several pick sixes throughout the course of the last 3 weeks. And the secondary has had, pieces brought in as well as pieces that we've already had. Josiah Harris has been here, and then we also have people coming in like Obi Wilson, Nigel Nerese has been here. And so these guys have really been able to put up pretty good numbers in that secondary, and especially when you got to go against, guys we were talking before, a GLIAC player of the week, their conference in Division II. He had 8 catches for 209 yards, a 96-yard touchdown. This guy is a threat for sure, but I think the secondary certainly is up to the task.
Yeah, I think we talked about probably on the first show how the secondary was that one position group on the defensive side where not as experienced and looking for some guys to step up. And like you said, you've got some returners like Nigel. Josiah has really become an awesome player and leader in that secondary. Corton Lamar, some other guys filling in there, giving some depth. And then you've got some newcomers. We were intentional in who we brought in, where we brought them in from. Paul Maxwell, Obi Wilson, both been great starting corners at the NAI level, both doing a really good job. And then, great bonus for us, we got C.J. Cutler finally back from his knee injury last year. Got his first game. You could see him working through a little bit of that, call it rust, or just getting the feel back for the game, doing some really good things. C.J.'s a guy, obviously, has been a first-team all-conference player at the NAI level, a guy that's just a very electric and explosive player, a guy that can shut down the other team's best receiver. And he's just going to get better and better as that knee gets more comfortable for him. But, yeah, I also love that we're going to go against a great receiver because every team in our conference is going to have that elite guy. You see that every week as we're going to get into conference play next week. We're very lucky on our side to have a whole crew of elite receivers. So it's a great challenge for our secondary this week to go up against a guy like that, and they've got some other really good receivers as well, while they'll also try to be very physical up front. So it's definitely a big challenge for us on the defensive side. I know Coach Ford and his staff are just hammering away right now, getting ready for that. And again, I'm really excited to kind of face a different type of opponent, a Division II opponent, have a really good team come into your home stadium and try to kind of mimic what we may face if we are lucky enough to host a playoff game.
I've been super excited as well about this linebacking core that we have. Guys that honestly could go start anywhere in the nation at the linebacking spot. Guys like Noah Steen and Jacoby Miguel, they're playing second string right now, and they're in and out so much at the end of the day. There's not too much of a difference, but guys like that, Jeremiah Pauling, who's been leading the way, of course, Cale Hagan, good as ever, and those guys have been able to really contain, at least on the crossing routes, and they've been able to step up and fill the gaps and really help stop the rush in the past as well.
Yeah, just as you were saying that, I was thinking of 5 different guys in our linebacking core that at some point in their college careers have led their team in tackles over the course of a year. Like you said, Noah, Jacoby being guys that at points have done that. Obviously, Ellis Reed that came with us a couple years ago. Even Gunnar Hollis was the leading tackler at Graceland a few years ago. Jeremiah Pauling was the best player on Iowa Wesleyan's defense when he transferred over. Our linebacking core is so deep. They're so good, even with a couple little injuries and things. We're just continuing to roll out these really good players. And they've got a special culture. Coach Atwood's done an awesome job with those guys of really getting them to buy in, man. They're a really tight group, and they really do a great job of leading our defense. As you've seen the elevation of the defensive line, and as we just mentioned the secondary, I think that's because how solid and good that linebacking core is. It takes the pressure off those other positions and allows Coach Ford and Coach O with the D-line and Coach Beatty with the secondary to really free up their guys, and that's why you've seen that big improvement and fast improvement over the course of the first 4 games from the whole defense.
Well, Coach, best of luck. Excited to see it this Saturday.
Absolutely. Glad to be back home and hope to have another great atmosphere.
The Tigers are still at home in Game 2 of a 3-game homestand as they take on the Lakers of Roosevelt. September 28th, this Saturday at 12 p.m. Kickoff a little earlier than usual, but be sure to show up and show out for the Tigers. Make it loud here at Finley Stadium. But if you can't be at the game, you can always tune in to 88.7 The Tiger on the TuneIn app, or you can join us on the Campbellsville Tigers YouTube page. And be sure to join us next week on Under Center with Jake Russell.